I'm very happy to be here, delighted to be in the company of such experts in diverse fields and very eminent persons. Thank you, Dr. Das, for getting us all together. It has been a good learning experience for me. When we talk about underwater domain awareness, my experience so far has been more in the maritime sphere because as diplomats from India, we cooperate with assisting other countries in maritime domain awareness. So underwater domain awareness in terms of rivers is something that is new to me. And I must say, Tejaswini, you've made a very compelling case for why we need this, and it is so important for a river like the Brahmaputra. So I had some prepared comments, but given the breadth of discussion and the depth of discussion that we have had, so I will kind of work through it depending on what has been said so far. So, and I won't take too much of your time. It appears to me that there are basically two different aspects that we are looking at. One is the importance of underwater domain awareness. And on that, I think there can be no doubt that use of surface river training techniques has not really worked, or if it has worked in a very haphazard and for the short term. And in the longer term, we have to employ these technologies in a much wider framework in order to both utilize our water resources as well as prevent the kind of catastrophes that we have had. Now, like at least two of the panelists, Anamika as well as Imadul, I also grew up on the banks of the Brahmaputra. So it is a river that is also close to my heart. Luit, or Bura Luit as we call him. And there is a reason for that, not only because the name itself is masculine, Brahmaputra, but also because he is a very virile, active, strong, river that carries all in its path. And therefore, these kind of studies are very important for such a river. And perhaps that is the reason why, as Professor Biswas says, we have not been able to utilize the waters of the Brahmaputra to the extent that we should, because it is so untamable. But as a result of that, of course, the river is part of Assam's folklore. It is being made immortalized by Dr. Bhupen Hazarika's songs on the river, by folk songs and festivals and things like that. So it is really the lifeline of Assam. And perhaps you could call it the central character in the state's cultural identity. So from all points of view, of course, this river, whether it is social, cultural, or economic, is a very important actor in the state of Assam, and in fact for the entire Northeast. Now, the other aspect, of course, is the governance aspect, and where in terms of transboundary governance and information sharing on such a river. The challenge for India, of course, is that it is both the lower riparian and the upper riparian for the Brahmaputra River. It's in a unique position. And therefore, one has to look at the totality of the picture as the river enters India and it exits into Bangladesh. Now, like Ambassador Karim, not like Ambassador Karim, in fact, Ambassador Karim is one who is a diplomat who has perhaps had the largest experience with subcontinental river issues and discussions on rivers. But I have myself been involved in river water discussions with China, specifically on the expert level mechanism, the ELM that we had actually with China on the Sutlej and the Brahmaputra. Unfortunately, both these understandings have lapsed on the Sutlej in 2020 and in the Brahmaputra in 2023. And I must say, and this is to corroborate what others have said, that discussions regarding even basic parameters of river water flows is a very fraught subject, which I found out to my cost in my discussions with China on the Sutlej. And it is both because of lack of transparency as well as a kind of antagonism regarding sharing of river water data, which makes it very difficult to make even incremental progress. So what happens is that when an MOU is signed between two countries, it tends to get frozen. And what Professor Biswas mentioned about the need to regularly revise water sharing treaties or information sharing treaties is very relevant, because once that agreement or understanding gets frozen, even getting the information under that becomes problematic, let alone adding newer parameters or enlarging the scope or, heaven forbid, revising that treaty or MOU. So, as you all know, in the case of China, the importance of sharing of information on the parameters of flow of the Brahmaputra takes on a added importance for India because of the massive dam that is being constructed on the Brahmaputra before it enters India. And this would be a project that is at least 3 times the size of the Three Gorges project. And it is not merely the retention of water that is a problem. It is possible diversion of water from that basin to other basins, which the Chinese on several occasions have stated as the long-term objective. And also the impact it will have on the lean season flows, which will be quite devastating for the state of Assam as well as for Bangladesh. So unfortunately, we have had no exchange of information on this subject, even on the parameters of flow of Brahmaputra waters. The last meeting was held in New Delhi in 2023. And since then, of course, relations have been testy between the two countries. And with the chances of, with the prospects of improvement in relations, there have been discussions on revival of those mechanisms, of all mechanisms, in fact, that have been in abeyance or have not or have expired. So we hope, and this is quite critical for us, and therefore we hope we are in talks with the Chinese on reviving that mechanism of river water talks. With Bangladesh, of course, on the Brahmaputra, we do share data through the River Waters Commission. But I think not only on the Brahmaputra, but also other rivers which flow from Assam into Bangladesh, or from India into Bangladesh, it would be very important, not only in the case of, say, Bangladesh, but also in the case of Nepal, to share, data, underwater domain awareness, because often what happens is local issues become highly politicized, and it is only if information sharing, not only information sharing, but also a common understanding of the parameters or of the information and the data that is being mapped, especially underwater data, will help to mitigate some of these tensions, which often take on a very virulently political character. So that is one aspect that I thought I would flag. So UDI does offer a pathway to strengthen our transboundary trust data that is jointly generated and scientifically verifiable would help to reduce uncertainties and misperceptions among riparian nations, and shared monitoring platforms and collaborative modeling can shift regional engagement from reactive crisis, as several speakers mentioned, to a proactive evidence-based coordination. And in this sense, this webinar could, result in creating greater awareness and perhaps taking steps forward to engage with governments on how these technologies can assist both within their own countries as well as in creating greater transboundary trust regarding the water flows. So I will stop here because there has been a lot of very important points that have been made, and I don't want to repeat those again. But I would say that I did really benefit from this exercise, and I would like to compliment each and every one of you for having been such enlightening speakers on this panel. Thank you.